Lightning isn't supposed to strike the same place twice, but in the Lee family, tragedy seemed to be written in their genetic code. 20 years before that rainy night in North Carolina, the world lost Bruce Lee just as he was ascending to the throne of cinema. Now his son, Brandon, was 28 years old, handsome, charismatic, and finally stepping out of the immense shadow of the dragon. He wasn't just Bruce's son anymore. He was a rising star, but there was a strange, cold wind blowing through his life. He was filming The Crow, a story about a man returning from the grave to avenge his own death. The lines between the script and reality were dangerously thin, and somewhere in the dark machinery of destiny, the clock was already counting down.
Forget the martial arts for a moment. Strip away the movie posters. Who was the man? Brandon was a romantic. He was madly in love with Eliza Hutton. Their wedding was set on April 17th in Ensenada, Mexico. The invites were sent. The flights were booked. Every time Brandon felt the exhaustion of the shoot, he looked at the calendar. Just a few more days. He told friends that The Crow was his best work, but his real life, his life as a husband, was about to begin. He wasn't planning for a funeral. He was planning a honeymoon. This is what makes the negligence so unforgivable. They didn't just kill an action hero. They killed a groom waiting for his bride.
If you walked onto the set of The Crow in Wilmington, you could feel the tension in your teeth. It was a production under siege. The budget was tight, the hours were brutal, and the atmosphere was oppressive. The crew called it the curse. Before Brandon was shot, a carpenter was critically burned by live power lines. A storm destroyed sets. A disgruntled staffer drove a car through the studio plaster shop. It was chaos. People were tired, overworked, and cutting corners. Safety protocols weren't just ignored. They were luxuries they felt they couldn't afford. To truly understand this death, we must turn our eyes to the microscopic mechanics of a Smith & Wesson Model 629-44 Magnum. This is a hand cannon. 2 weeks before the fatal night, the script called for a close-up shot where the camera looks directly into the cylinder of the gun. The audience needs to see bullets. Normally, a production buys commercially made dummy rounds, inert metal with no gunpowder and no primer. But the prop department, running on fumes and impatience, decided to improvise. They went to a local gun store and bought live ammunition, real bullets. Back on set, they took pliers and pulled the lead slugs out of the brass casings. They dumped the gunpowder into the trash. Then they pressed the lead slugs back into the casings. It looked perfect. It looked safe. But they forgot one invisible component: the primer. The primer is the small silver cap at the base of the cartridge. It contains a tiny amount of touch-sensitive explosive designed to ignite the main gunpowder. By leaving the live primer in the casing, they had essentially created a mini missile. Days later, during a test, actor Michael Massey wasn't even on set yet. Another actor pulled the trigger. Pop! It wasn't a bang. It was a soft pop. The primer detonated. It didn't have enough force to shoot the bullet out of the gun, but it had enough energy to drive the heavy lead slug out of the cylinder and into the forcing cone, the narrow throat where the cylinder meets the barrel. The bullet stopped there, stuck, wedged tight by friction, a squib load. The crew opened the gun, saw the empty casing, and assumed it was fine. They didn't look down the barrel. They didn't use a cleaning rod. They put the gun back in the case. The trap was set. A silent assassin, made of lead, was now waiting in the dark tunnel of that revolver.
March 31st, 1993. It's past midnight. The cold is seeping into everyone's bones. The scene calls for fun boy Michael Massey to shoot Eric Draven. The prop master is gone for the night. The responsibility falls to people who were too tired to be careful. They load the gun with blanks. A blank is a cartridge with no bullet, but it is packed with ultra-fast burning gunpowder and sealed with cardboard wadding to create a massive muzzle flash and a loud boom. Think about the physics. You have a barrel blocked by the lodged bullet from 2 weeks ago. Behind it, you place a high-pressure explosive charge. Action! Massey raises the gun. He is 15 feet away. He pulls the trigger. The blank detonates. The gas expands instantly, looking for an escape. It slams into the back of the lodged bullet. The pressure spikes to catastrophic levels. The dummy bullet is no longer a dummy. It is propelled with the full velocity of a live .44 Magnum round. It exits the barrel. It tears through the grocery bag Brandon is holding. It enters his abdomen, moving right to left. It doesn't stop. It smashes through his stomach, tears the major arteries, and buries itself in his spine.
Brandon falls backwards. The director yells, "Cut!" The crew applauds. It looked incredibly real. Then the silence stretches too long. Massey stands there, confused. The stunt coordinator walks over. "Brandon, you can get up now." But the blood is wrong. It's arterial red. It's pumping in rhythm with a failing heart. The scream goes out. "Medic! We need a medic!" The set goes from a place of fiction to a trauma scene in seconds. The ambulance arrives, its lights cutting through the artificial rain, carrying a dying prince away from his kingdom.
At New Hanover Regional Medical Center, Dr. Warren McMurray was waiting. When Brandon arrived, he was technically alive, but barely. His blood pressure was plummeting. The trauma team was confused. The crew had told them it was a blank, it was an explosion. The doctors were looking for burn marks. They were looking for wad impact. They didn't know there was a bullet. They rushed him into X-ray. The machine hummed, and the image appeared on the light box. The room went cold. There, clearly visible against the L4 and L5 vertebrae, was a .44 caliber slug. Dr. McMurray opened him up. It was a war zone inside. The bullet had nicked the inferior vena cava and severed the iliac artery. Brandon was bleeding out faster than they could pump blood in. The surgery lasted agonizing 5 hours. The medical team was desperate. They didn't just use blood bags, they used everything they had. They pumped 60 pints of blood into Brandon. An average human body holds about 10 to 12 pints. They replaced his entire blood volume 5 times over, but the damage was too massive. The blood wouldn't clot. The cold hand of death had taken hold, and no amount of science could pry it loose. At 1:03 p.m., the fight ended. Eliza Hutton arrived at the hospital just as his heart gave its final beat.
As the world grieved, the police moved in. Detectives seized the film reels. They seized the gun. Rumors flew wildly.
Was it the Chinese triads? Was it a jealous rival? Was it murder? District Attorney Jerry Spivey led the investigation. They developed the film from the cameras that were rolling that night. Yes, the death was recorded. A room full of detectives and lawyers sat in silence and watched a man die on celluloid. They analyzed every frame. They saw the bag rip. They saw Brandon fall. It confirmed the ballistics. It was negligence, not murder. The footage was handed over to the director, Alex Proyas. He didn't lock it in a vault. He didn't sell it. In a final act of respect, he burned it. That footage is gone forever, as it should be. And the punishment for this monumental loss? OSHA fined the production company. The total cost for the safety violations that killed Brandon Lee was $84,000. That was the price tag put on a legend's life. A few $1,000s for the lack of a protocol that cost the world decades of art.
Michael Massey, the man who pulled the trigger, was never charged, but he served a life sentence of guilt. He never watched The Crow. He died in 2016, still haunted by that split second. The Crow was released in 1994. It opens with a quote, "People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. When you watch the film, you are watching a ghost. The rain is real, the darkness is real, and the tragedy is that Brandon Lee didn't have to die to become immortal. He was ready to live. But sometimes the crow doesn't bring the soul back. Sometimes it just leaves us with the memory." This case file is officially closed, but the archives of Hollywood are full of silent witnesses and buried evidence. If you want access to the next investigation, click the subscribe button now. Don't just watch from the shadows, join the channel. Now, I want to hear your verdict in the comments below. Do you believe the $84,000 fine was justice or an insult to the Lee family? Let the discussion begin.